Welcome to Kaywon Action Star. The movie opens with a young guy named Ricky Ho gets arrested for murder and sentenced to 10 years in prison. With fair treatment, such a sentence might be tolerable. But in the future, all prisons have become privately owned. And that means inside their gloomy walls, wardens set their own twisted rules. These shady dudes use prisoners as their personal slaves, but they have no clue who just walked through their door. A bus filled with prisoners passes through heavily guarded checkpoints, heading to a maximum security facility. Like all other prisons in this futuristic world, it's owned by a private company. Among the new arrivals is Ricky Ho, sentenced to 10 years for assault and murder. Ricky immediately shows defiance, ignoring orders and stepping straight through the metal detector. Alarms blare, and guards rush him, thinking he's armed. But the X-ray reveals 5 bullets stuck inside his body. A guard offers help to remove them, but Ricky casually tells him he'll keep them as souvenirs for a couple more years. The prison is divided into 4 sections: north, south, east, and west. Each block has a captain among the inmates who rules his area with permission from management. Together, they proudly call themselves the Gang of Four. One morning, Samuel, the right-hand man to the North Block's captain, is busy bullying and beating an elderly prisoner in the restroom. The old man is nearly done serving his sentence, but Samuel threatens he'll never get out early unless Samuel himself allows it. To make his point clear, Samuel smashes a small toy train that the old man has built lovingly as a gift for his son. Enraged and desperate, the old guy loses his cool and charges at Samuel holding a woodworking plane. Samuel quickly grabs the weapon and brutally strikes him across the face. Hearing the noise, a guard runs in, immediately siding with Samuel and his crew. Suddenly, Ricky steps in, tripping Samuel so perfectly that the bully lands face first onto a plank filled with nails. Samuel's cronies nervously drag their injured boss away, too scared to confront this tough new inmate. Later, nursing his bandaged face, Samuel plots revenge. His buddies suggest hiring a musclehead thug named Zorro, who's been locked away in solitary confinement yet again for breaking rules. Samuel meets secretly with a corrupt guard, paying him off with his special inmate salary to speed up Zorro's release. The next day, guards corner the elderly prisoner again, coldly informing him his early release is denied. They falsely accuse him of secretly writing letters to his wife and kid without permission. He protests, calling them liars, but receives nothing except punches. In return, brokenhearted, he realizes he has nothing left to live for if he'll never see his family again. By nightfall, inmates find the old man hanging lifeless from a rope. Everyone whispers sadly about how unfair his imprisonment was. He'd only run someone over by accident while rushing his pregnant wife to the hospital. Ricky overhears the prisoner's conversation and heads out into the prison yard to pay final respects. He shatters the chains holding the old man's body and carefully places the toy train, now perfectly repaired by his own hands, gently into the deceased man's grasp. The next morning, Ricky and Samuel are showering when Zorro suddenly appears, blocking the doorway like an angry, oversized refrigerator. Without hesitation, the massive thug attacks Ricky, delivering a bone-crushing punch that sends him flying across the room and slamming violently into the opposite wall. Ricky stands up and meets the giant Zorro's next attack with superhuman force. His punch goes straight through Zorro's belly, making the big guy drop to the floor in agony. Samuel rushes in with a spike, stabbing through Ricky's palm. But Ricky doesn't even flinch. Instead, he calmly breaks Samuel's fingers and takes him out with a punch strong enough to make a shotgun jealous. Guards yell for Ricky to surrender, but they're interrupted by Captain High of the North Block. High wants Ricky and his crew, but Ricky clearly isn't interested. They take Ricky back to his cell, where he suddenly feels sharp pain in his chest. Ricky breathes heavily and recalls a moment from his past, back when he was still a high school kid walking to visit his parents' grave. There, he met a mysterious stranger who turned out to be his uncle, Shang Kui, a kung fu master. Shang Kui challenged Ricky to show his fighting skills, easily blocked the young man's furious attack, and decided to take him as a pupil. Ever since, Ricky trained every day at the cemetery, mastering his Chai energy to effortlessly smash huge rocks and endure powerful blows to his chest. Back in reality, Ricky is led to the deputy warden, a nasty fellow known as Cyclops. This charming guy is busy stuffing his face with steak, using an iron hook replacing his left hand, and proudly sporting an artificial eye. Cyclops starts grilling Ricky, asking why he killed a powerful gangster and what he'd been doing during the 2 years since leaving the orphanage. When Ricky refuses to talk, Cyclops calls him over and shows him a letter from the outside. He cruelly hooks Ricky's hand and punches him in the face, threatening Ricky's girlfriend, whose picture was enclosed. This makes Ricky lose his cool completely. He breaks the desk in half, throws a guard across the room, and leaps into action, deflecting a bullet midair with a metal tray. Ricky pins Cyclops to a corner and almost kills him, stopping at the very last moment. Instead, he takes the photo back and leaves. In his cell, Ricky takes out a flute and plays a tune, remembering happier times. A year earlier, he spent carefree days outdoors with his girlfriend Yen. The next morning, Samuel's minion, now left without his boss's protection, faces justice from prisoners he'd bullied. Captain Hai steps in, stopping the execution, but one man, Kwon, angrily protests and openly challenges Hai's authority. For this defiance, Hai swiftly slashes his face with a blade. Before things escalate further, Cyclops grabs Kwon with his hook. The deputy warden wants to teach Ricky a lesson and hands Hai a knife, ordering him to handle it. Ricky and Hai meet in the prison yard, where Hai has tied the injured Kwon to a giant wooden cross. Hai sees himself in Ricky, feeling regretful that he must fight him. Ricky demands Kwon's release before the fight, but the inmates warn Ricky it's pointless. Once Hai shows off his tattoos, there's no stopping him. Sure enough, Hai hurls glass shards at Ricky's eyes, temporarily blinding him. Ricky, badly wounded in the arm, collapses onto the ground. Ricky manages to rinse his eyes and regain his vision just as the other inmates rally behind him. In one swift move, he dodges Hai's knife attack and strikes, knocking out Hai's eye. Then, shocking everyone, Ricky tightly wraps his injured arm to stop the bleeding. Hai, overwhelmed by defeat, makes one last attempt to fight back, but is stopped by Ricky, who delivers a final powerful punch. Hai falls, defeated. After the fight, Ricky pulls the massive wooden cross from the ground, but it's too late to save Kwon. Furious inmates rise up in rebellion, charging at Cyclops. But the remaining 3 captains protect him. Everyone urges Ricky to take revenge and eliminate the Gang of 4. But Ricky doesn't want more bloodshed. Instead, he carries Kwon's body away, refusing the path of vengeance. Cyclops, seeing an opportunity, offers Ricky the position of North Block captain. But Ricky's attention is drawn to Alan, Hai's godson, mourning his fallen father. Ricky teaches him how to play music with a simple green leaf. But when Alan tries, he can't make a sound, because the captains had taken his tongue to keep him from revealing their secrets. Moved by the boy's pain, Ricky gives him his own flute as a gift. In return, Alan offers him poppy leaves, a gift from the South Block captain. Ricky is horrified. The captains are running an illegal opium plantation inside the prison. Meanwhile, the captains gather to discuss what to do about Alan, who has sided with Ricky. In a cruel twist, they display Hai's body, claiming Ricky had disrespected it. Then, they kill Alan and leave his body in the yard as a warning to future traitors. Devastated by Alan's death, Ricky smashes the flute in anger. Cyclops is furious that the secret of the plantation has leaked, but by then, Ricky is already torching the poppy fields, burning the Empire down. The South Block captain, Wang Chun, confronts Ricky and attacks with deadly kung fu, landing a brutal blow straight to Ricky's heart. Meanwhile, chaos erupts as inmates try to use the distraction to escape. Cyclops, panicking, hears that the prison director will be returning soon from vacation in Hawaii. He orders the activation of Plan Zero. Ricky, lying on the ground and clutching his wound, recalls his master's teachings and finds strength to fight back. He rises and faces off against all 3 captains. One of them entangles Ricky with knives attached to ropes, preparing to finish him. But Tazan, the brute of the group, steps in, claiming the kill for himself. Just as they argue over who gets the honor of killing Ricky, the automated gun system, part of Plan Zero, activates, and bullets rain down from the walls. Everyone scrambles for cover. Tazan grabs Ricky and drags him into a nearby room. But to their horror, the room starts filling with liquid cement. Ricky manages to punch through the iron door, pulling the stunned captain to safety. Cyclops had planned to sacrifice Tazan, but now that the plans failed, he confronts Ricky on the stairway. Ricky is ready to expose Cyclops' illegal poppy plantation, but just as he moves to strike, the cement sets, locking Ricky in place. Cyclops captures him, and the next day, the prison director arrives, stepping out of his car with his spoiled son Wang in tow. Wang, the kind of brat who thinks the world owes him everything, looks down on Cyclops like he's dirt under his feet. But karma doesn't waste time. Wang trips on the red carpet, and just like that, the director orders a prisoner to lose an eye for laying it poorly. Brutal, but that's how power trips roll in this place. The director then lays into Cyclops, furious over the chaos that unfolded during his absence, especially after learning that the opium plantation went up in flames. Cyclops tries to save face, presenting Ricky as the one responsible. Ricky stands shackled and encased in cement, from head to toe like some failed modern art sculpture. But when Ricky spots the guest, he suddenly breaks free. In a flash, he grabs the director through the cell bars, vowing to punish him for his drug empire. Wang naturally panics and yells that Cyclops saved his father. Just then, Tarzan smashes through the wall like a living bulldozer, slamming Ricky back and trapping him with bent iron bars. The beating begins, an entertaining spectacle for the director and his son. But Ricky doesn't stay down for long. Breaking free again, he lands an uppercut that dislocates Tarzan's jaw, then follows up with a punch that crushes his enemy's fist. Tarzan collapses out cold. Ricky stands firm, shouting that prisoners are not insects, they're people. But the director has other ideas. The cell's ceiling begins to descend, a slow, crushing death looming overhead. Ricky resists with all his strength, holding up the heavy slab with pure willpower. But Cyclops has another card to play. He unleashes an electric shock that knocks Ricky to the floor. It seems like the end until Tarzan, barely alive, sacrifices himself to save Ricky. Ricky breaks free, crashing through the iron bars, but when he tries to save Tarzan, it's too late. The ceiling crushes the giant man. Ricky, consumed with rage and sorrow, reminds everyone that even Tarzan had people waiting for him outside, loved ones hoping for his freedom. But his speech is cut short when a trapdoor opens beneath his feet. Ricky plunges down, shackled and chained, landing in a pit in the center of the prison yard. The director declares that for his rebellion, Ricky will be buried alive as a warning to the rest. Two prisoners try to protest, but they're shot on the spot. Guards order the remaining inmates to cover Ricky with dirt. He doesn't resist, and even tells them not to risk their lives for him. The director makes it clear, if Ricky survives 7 days underground, he'll be freed. Cyclops thoughtfully sticks a hollow bamboo tube into the ground, giving Ricky just enough air to suffer longer. As night falls, worry spreads among the inmates. But then, through the darkness, a faint, whistling melody drifts across the yard. Ricky is still fighting. The two surviving captains try to silence Ricky by plugging the bamboo tube with a piece of meat. But Ricky, because he's a hardcore survivor, breaks the bamboo in half and uses the falling meat as his next meal. Starving and buried, Ricky clings to memories of his lost love, Yen. In a painful flashback, Yen is seen walking home late one night. She stumbles upon men dealing and using opium. One of the gangsters spots her and abducts her. She manages to escape, but in her panic, slips from a rooftop and falls to her death. That tragedy fuels Ricky's burning hatred for the drug trade. Consumed by vengeance, Ricky tracked down the man responsible. The gangster shot him 5 times in the chest, but Ricky didn't even flinch. He took down the man with one fatal strike, sealing his fate as both a hero and a convict. That's why Ricky's behind bars. He chose revenge over justice. After 7 grueling days, despite storms and unimaginable torment, Ricky is pulled from the grave, alive. He leaps down from the excavator, but there's no time to breathe. The captains attack immediately, eager to finish what the grave couldn't. The prisoners are done with the endless injustice and broken promises. They rise up in rebellion, but Ricky ends up thrown back into the dungeon like some wild animal. Yet even in chains, Ricky refuses to break, declaring that a pig and a wolf can never be friends. For his defiance, he takes a brutal hit to the face with a wrench. The captains toy with him, demanding to know where he disappeared for 2 years. They shove razor blades into his mouth and beat him until blood flows. But when the director arrives, hoping to get answers, Ricky spits those very blades right into his face. Calm, but deadly. Ricky says his secret will be the last thing these tyrants ever learn. That night, one of Ricky's friends risks everything to bring him food and words of encouragement, but nothing escapes the watchful eye of the assistant warden. By morning, Cyclops finds the traitor and delivers a fatal blow, eager to parade the man's corpse as a warning. But when he comes to gloat, Ricky isn't there. Turns out, Ricky is hiding near the ceiling, waiting like a tiger in the shadows. He ambushes the guards, killing the assistant and wounding Cyclops. Reinforcements arrive, but not in time to save the dying friend, whom Ricky thanks with quiet sorrow. Fueled by rage, the prisoners attack Cyclops, cutting off his remaining hand and turning him into a real-life action figure, minus the arms. The rebellion explodes. Inmates clash with guards, fighting tooth and nail to break free. Ricky joins the fray, leading the charge that drives the guards into retreat. He grabs Cyclops, demanding to be taken to the director. Meanwhile, the director and his spoiled son are busy in the kitchen, tasting dishes and punishing chefs for flavors that don't meet their high standards. But their cruelty is interrupted when Ricky storms in. Cyclops shields Ricky with his body, taking bullets meant for the fighter. The director doesn't hesitate. He shoots Cyclops, proving loyalty means nothing here. The final battle kicks off. The remaining block captains attack Ricky's allies, while Ricky himself faces off against two martial arts masters. One of them, Quan Chu, scalds Ricky with boiling water, but karma strikes fast. His leg gets stuck in a barrel, and Ricky finishes the job, severing the limb. The last surviving captain makes a desperate run for it, but the director has no room for cowards. He life with an exploding bolt. Problem solved, messily. But the director is no ordinary man. Turns out he's a martial arts master with a freaky twist. He transforms into a massive, grotesque giant and challenges Ricky to a final duel. The monster smashes Ricky through a stone pillar, but Ricky strikes back, punching clean through the beast's body. Still, the director doesn't fall. His strength grows with every attack, feeding off Ricky's energy. But Ricky's done playing games. Gathering his strength, he hurls the director into a giant meat grinder. The machine roars, and just like that, the tyrant is reduced to nothing. Victorious, Ricky walks out, holding the severed head of his enemy. He ends the chaos, calling off the fight between inmates and guards. Then, with one final act, he tears down the prison wall, leading his fellow prisoners to freedom. And that's how Ricky turned a nightmare into a victory. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to this channel for more beautiful recaps like this. Put down your comments below to let me know what you think about the turn of events in this storyline. And also give my video a thumbs up to further motivate me. Share too for others to enjoy. Until my next recap, cheers!